Today on Old Bob's Old Typewriters, let's compare two Royal Quiet Deluxe typewriters, a 1955 Ankony blue color typewriter on your left and a 1957 teal blue color typewriter on your right. Hello, and welcome to Old Bob's Old Typewriters, a subseries part of the New Things New Tech channel. I'm Drudge. Find out more typewriter-related content on this typewriter and others on oldbobsoldtypewriters.com or this YouTube channel's typewriter playlists. Two typewriters here, essentially the same, manufactured about 2 years apart, but have some interesting differences. The 1955 Royal Quiet Deluxe was still produced under the Royal Company of New York, and the 1957 Royal Quiet Deluxe was produced under the Royal McBee Company of New York. Royal and McBee started their merger back in 1954. McBee was a leading manufacturer of accounting and statistical machines and supplies at that time. The Royal Quiet Deluxe in multiple colors started popping up around 1955. Initially, there were 6 different colors available. Check out this promotional sheet that came with my 1955 Blue Quiet Deluxe. It was in 1955 that the Royal Quiet Deluxe third model was born, and it came out in a choice of these 6 colors. You could get the Royal Quiet Deluxe in pink, green, charcoal, yellow, gray, and blue like this 1955 version. Kinda cool, right? The gray was the only color that was a matte finish, with all the others that were glossy color. A glossy gray was added later on, as well as red and white. The blue was changed to teal. For a special order version, you would have been able to get a gold-plated Quiet Deluxe. James Bond film writer Ian Flemming had a gold-plated model 1947 Royal Quiet Deluxe, and is what he used to write Casino Royale. Fleming's typewriter, which he had created by Royal and paid $174 for back in 1952, sold for £56,250 or $89,229 at Christie's in London back in May 5th, 1995. Here's a 1952 ad for a Royal Quiet Deluxe Gold found in the November issue of Boy's Life. The typewriters at first glance appear to be the same, other than the obvious hue color difference. The 1957 Royal logo was redesigned to have the red background logo, whereas the 1955 has a silver Royal logo. The 1955 Royal Quiet Deluxe has the Royal newer typeface Canterbury Elite. The 1957 Royal Quiet Deluxe has the Canterbury Pica. What's the difference? Well, if you look at the rule bar on both of these, you'll see that the Canterbury Elite is a 12 character per inch typeface, where the Canterbury Pica is a 10 character per inch typeface. When you see a paper lock scale that goes over 90, you know that the typeface or font is going to be a 12 character per inch typeface. The typewriters at first glance appear to be about the same, other than the obvious hue color difference. The frame, inner workings, and body construction is pretty much the same on both the 55 and the 57. The 55 is missing a 1 and exclamation key. On the 57, there's a cutout on the left for the backspace and the addition of a 1 and exclamation key. The backspace key is offset a bit more to the left to make room for the added key. The 55 doesn't have a plus or an equal sign. The 57 has a plus equal sign on the right side between the tab key and the asterisk dash key. There's a cutout for the tab key, which is taller and slightly moved to the right to allow room for the extra key. As far as the keyboard goes, that's the only difference, but would take a little getting used to if you're used to the older keyboard layout. It's interesting to note that the 55 has components ready for additional keys to be added. The lower type guide has cutouts for the keys on both the left and right sides. The lower segment type bar pivot assembly has cutouts for both type bars on both the left and right. The segment assembly doesn't have the extra cutouts for the type bars on the 55 as seen on the 57. So I'm guessing Royal was gearing up to make the newer models with the extra keys in place back in 1955, but didn't get into production until sometime in 1956. The ribbon carrier on the 1955 is the angled slot version, called the Rapid Changer, and loading the ribbon is done in this manner. Hit the shift lock, put the color selector on red, then jam up 2 keys. Slide the ribbon behind the carrier, then slide the ribbon through the slot, up, and then bunch up a little bit, and then down into the lower position. Make sure the ribbon is through the ribbon reversing travel guides. Unlock the type bars and select your color. The ribbon carrier on the 1957 has the improved ribbon carrier with 2 prongs on the ribbon carrier. Squeeze the 2 prongs, drop the ribbon in like this, then type with any key. The prongs will automatically lock the ribbon into place as long as you're not in stencil mode. Make sure the ribbon is through the ribbon reversing travel guides. Set your ribbon and color and you're good to go. An advantage when changing the ribbon goes to the 1957 Quiet Deluxe. That's really it for the major differences of interest found in these two Royal Quiet Deluxe typewriters. The cases are essentially the same. The 1955 case is much cleaner on the inside than the 1957 case. Both serve the function of locking the typewriter in the same manner and protecting the typewriter for transportation. Both have a yellowish-brown tweed case, and these have seen a lot of wear over the years, changing from the more yellow and brown colors to the subdued coloring. So which of these two do you like? The 1955 or the 1957 Quiet Deluxe? For me, it's a hard choice. The blue 55, Canterbury's Elite type, which is a 12 character per inch, for me is more desirable for day-to-day typing. It's a bit smaller and crisper, and overall I like its look better. However, if I were to be writing a script on this typewriter, then the Canterbury Pica, which is 10 characters per inch on the 57, would be best. But keeping that in mind, I just have to adjust the layout to accommodate for the difference. In fact, there's a tale about writer David Gerrold, who back in the 60s wrote the screenplay for The Trouble with Tribbles episode of the original Star Trek series. David Gerrold wrote a book about his experiences back then, and in the book he told how he had a typewriter with a smaller than standard font. When the studio retyped it to make duplicate copies for production, they found out that the story was actually 90 pages long. Gerrold had to do some extensive cuts to get the story down to 50-minute format of the 60s. He said that the extensive cuts had actually made the story better and tightened it up. So know your typewriter and your settings. Back to which typewriter would you choose? If I were to base my decision on the color, I somewhat prefer the teal color and the red background logo. It's brighter and more appealing. But the powder blue is rather nice, and if not side by side, it's just as appealing. And the Royal Chrome logo is pretty solid too. The missing one key really doesn't make much of a difference. Missing an exclamation point? Well, that character's been overused. Everything else about these typewriters feels pretty much the same. The 1955 blue does seem to me to type a little easier and cleaner. Let me know what your choice would be in the comments below. That's it for these two Royal Quiet Deluxe portable typewriters, the 1955 Ankony Blue and the 1957 Teal Blue typewriter. Both are in fantastic condition. The typing action on both these Quiet Deluxes is buttery smooth, and overall they are great, desirable, and sought after typewriters. Both of these are easily valued at $350 or more, as their condition is excellent. Thanks for watching Old Bob's Old Typewriters. If you have a typewriter that you need some help with, send me a note. Check my site or other videos in my typewriter playlist. Check out my other videos on new things, new tech, and more on this channel.